Hi, this is Claudette Milner, host of A Matter of Interpretations, Americans in Crisis. We are in a state of crisis over gun control, over mass shootings, and over the safety of our children. Today we're going to have my guest, and it's Luther Brown of Little Hands, Little Feet, Gun Safety. Of course, we're going to start with a word of prayer and bring God into the mix. Most gracious Father, we come to you just knowing who you are. We know that you're in control, but we also know, God, that you give us guidance through the Holy Spirit, and the guidance that you've given us today is to try to prepare for gun safety for our youth. In Jesus' name, we ask your guidance and your wisdom. Amen.
Amen.
Luther, can you begin by just telling us a little bit about your program and a little bit about you?
Well, me is little of nothing. I'm acting out in a program. It's called the Little Hands, Little Feet Gun Safety Program. God is really behind this and always will be. Our program educates youth. I always had a vision that if you go to the youngest and you inspire them with knowledge of safety behind the gun, we found in time that parents, grandparents, also came along with those children. They were more enlightened about what we were teaching their children, to where it was very easy for them to get the point that we were trying to make.
I want to talk about, and we talked about, and in my readings and research, I saw that there were 75 murders. And they call them family fire, which I had never heard that term, but family fire meaning that kids picked up a gun that was loaded and there was no safety to it and accidentally shot themselves. And there were many, many, many more that were wounded, but these were actual deaths. And our job and your job is to prevent these things from happening by education. People are not going to get rid of their guns. We understand that. I believe in the Second Amendment. But I also believe that you have a responsibility to lock up your gun and put it in a place where it cannot be found by our youth. Because I also read on mass shootings that many of them are attributed to parents not locking up their guns. And the consequences have been severe.
You know, practicing safe gun storage is our #1 cause in our Little Hands, Little Feet Gun Safety Program. To back up just a little bit, these accidental shootings and deaths of these children are 97% preventable. If parents would only use common sense gun safety, and that's why it's important to store your gun locked up and safe. Now, in the state of Kentucky, we have a law called 527.110. It says intentionally, accidentally, or recklessly providing a handgun to a juvenile under the age of 18. Now, they have not prosecuted any of these parents. The number you just shown about the deaths of these children or the injuries of these children, there's no one being prosecuted. They believe that when a child is injured or shoots himself or another parent, it is a slap on the wrist, don't do it anymore. Or if the child dies, it's sadness to the family. Excuse me, that there's no prosecution there, there's no laws that they've broken, but they have broken laws. Because storing a gun properly is what we're about. The law states accidentally or recklessly providing one of these to a child is a criminal offense. And of course, not one of those cases that you talked about were any charges to the family.
Now, I did do some research, and there are 9 states that prosecute parents.
It's called the Child Excess Law.
And they prosecute and they actually serve time
Well,
for reckless.
in the state of Kentucky, we don't
Right.
have that.
We do not have that. And so because we don't have that, then it's like the death of a child is not important.
Well, I don't want to say it's not important. We have policies that talk about these particular things happening, but we don't enforce those laws. Now, any child being shot, it is very important to you or me or anyone else that even hears about a child being shot. It is very important, and it's sorrowful that we as a city or a state do not have those child access laws that you're talking about. There are other states that do practice that parents, there's laws where you have to store your gun properly. You have to make sure that it's not gang accessible to a child. Like I stated a moment ago, keeping a child from gaining access by properly storing them, doing what's right, is called gun safety. We want to make sure that we send this message out through our community, through our Little Hands, Little Feet gun safety program. People, I guess what I want to say is we're not doing enough to gun safety. Gun safety can go in a whole lot of ways. If we practice safe gun storage, that means our teenagers won't get a hold to them, as well as our babies won't get a hold to them.
I know I read about a 2-year-old that the parents were trying to buy a car, and they left the gun in the glove compartment, and they left the child in the car, and the child is just, he's bored, and he goes in and he gets the gun, and he accidentally shoots himself. And and I also read, and this was striking to me, it said that one of the reasons that people do not lock up their guns or put locks on them is because they fear for their safety 24/7, and they want that gun to be ready and available to shoot.
Well, that's beautiful, and that's understandable, to want to protect yourself. I got that. I believe we are in a society today to where safety is very important. Crime is high in all areas. You remember, I don't want to forget the point that you were making about the child gaining access. These gun locks that we give away for free are easy to open, put back together, to gain access to. Very easy and simple.
Can you do that again for the camera? Can you take
Okay, well, I had my hand, let me get my glasses on here so I can. This gun lock, to put it together, is on the trigger. Once you hear those clicks, it's very easy. Once you hear those clicks, you can remove the key. It's very easy. Once that key is inserted and turn that, it comes right off. Very simple. Now, let me ask you a question. Versus doing some protecting, we had a ration of guns stolen from cars. Let's go back to the car episode with the baby.
Okay.
With the baby gaining access to your gun, if your gun is stored properly inside of your car, locked up, if someone steals your car, breaks in your car, we had a ration of these a few weeks ago. If these guns were locked up, had a gun lock on them, they would have posed no danger to our community, even if the car was stolen or the gun was stolen. But gaining access to this gun was very easy and simple. I didn't have to do much, and now it's readable to go. Now, these are the type of things that I give away for free. I try to tell people the importance. This key will not come out of this gun lock. If this gun lock is open, this key is unremovable. You cannot get the key out. Now, using this particular type of gun lock versus the cable locks, there is a cable lock that I talk about all the time. These type of cable locks here, once you use these kinds, kids have learned the ways to where they're cut off, they're sawed off. But this particular type of gun lock, the trigger lock, you'll destroy this gun before you can get this gun lock off, which keeps your gun safe. And this is what we give away. But I want to talk about that because I believe that practicing safe gun storage in your car, in your home, it makes sense. It just makes sense because I'm going to keep you safe. And you know, in our domestic issues, we have some of these same particular issues sometimes. If I'm at home and my wife comes in, she's hitting on me, she's calling me everything but a child of God. But if this gun is fully loaded in the drawer, underneath the mattress, I grab hold to it, now I've accidentally shot the one that I love. So now, my life, and you can call it mental if you want to, but I wasn't mental before I picked it up. And now I might do myself. It made me choke on that one. But that's how things are. But, you know, these are the things that I talk about all the time, about how do we protect children? How do we bring awareness to our community of the importance of locking up guns? We have to, not just in your home. And you know, it's so beautiful when you talk about the babies. You'll teach your babies the most important thing about locking up your guns and what safety is. It's not your children I worry about. It's the children that your children go around. We have to do this all the way around, practice telling people, telling neighbors, practice safe gun storage, because it may not be your house that your child comes in contact with a gun. See, it could happen at the neighbors or sleepovers, at a birthday party. Somebody's inquisitive about a gun, want to show a friend at a birthday party. Our teenagers, most of all, they have random to go to uncle's and auntie's house. They can gain access to guns quickly because grandmama and granddaddy have them fully loaded and unlocked.
You know what I read last night that just, I had to stop. And unfortunately for the grandkids, they were there, and I would just stop when I was astounded or something, and it was talking about the concealment law.
Oh.
And it was saying that if you have a home daycare, if you have a home daycare, you are exempt, you can have a gun in your house. And I was like, wait a minute. You're saying that daycare facilities, public daycare facilities cannot do this, but in Kentucky, under the new concealment law, if I choose to have a daycare in my house, I can have a weapon in my house. Now, if that weapon is loaded and it is not safety proof, and the kids just happen to be roaming around because the daycare person is doing something, fixing lunch.
Yeah.
To me,
Well,
somebody has to be accountable.
Well, as a parent, I'm going to tell you, if my child goes to your daycare center and I know you got a gun there, you will not just tell me that it's locked up. I have to see that it is locked up. Parents need to be more accountable for the safety of their own children in that incident. Ask those questions. Is there a gun on your site? And you have to not only believe that they're telling you it's locked up, put your own eyes on it. So that makes people accountable, because listen, you are accountable for the safety of your children whether you are with them 24/7 or not. It is your responsibility to make sure that they're safe. And that's the message that we have to give to our community today around this gun. Education is a beautiful thing. You know, the conceal, we don't have that anymore. We have open carry. The conceal permits teaches you how to use it, how to store it, how to clean it. In the state of Kentucky, that is no longer necessary. I heard a lady, you know, I give away plenty of gun locks, and I hear people talking about, well, everybody's got one, everybody's getting shot in my neighborhood. I feel like I'm the only one that don't got a gun on my block. I'm gonna get me a gun. See, those are the kind of things that worry me, because the person who said that have no knowledge about the gun. And so I always encourage them, if that's your thinking and you do plan to get one, make sure you practice safe gun storage with it. Make sure that you let your family know to practice safe gun storage, because it has to be a giveaway. I can't allow my children to come to your house if you're not going to practice safe gun storage. I'm sorry. I love you as a mother, as a grandfather, as whatever. You have to take these messages to your family. This has to be a family thing. And once it becomes a family thing, it becomes a neighbor thing. Once it becomes a neighbor thing, then it becomes a community thing. And that's how it has to go. If we practice safe gun storage for children, that's what it has to be. We cannot go any other way. We will lose this battle if we keep thinking that background checks. I think we're going to talk about the background check. The background check system, I'm sorry to tell you, has been a myth all of these years. They've never done anything about it for generations. And now in my time, they may not ever do anything about it as long as I'm here. It's been a myth. There are too many guns in our community already. All of the mass shootings people have passed background checks and were able to legally possess firearms. There's arsenals now in folks' homes. Under Barack Obama 8-year era, oh, he's going to take your guns away. Do you know there were people stockpiling weapons? So what good is background check today going to do? And I'm going to give you another good, beautiful scenario that the Kentucky has. If a federally licensed gun dealer has to do a background check and has a brother who's a licensed gun dealer, which can sell as many guns as he wants to any felon. But if I come to you as a licensed gun dealer, if you have this in your hand and I want to buy this as a felon, and I'm just a licensed gun dealer, hand me that gun. It's called transfer, and it's legal. And I could sell this gun to this felon. I could sell him 100 guns that you may have. But it's called transfer. It's called legal. Those are some of those little loopholes they want to call loopy-holes. It's a myth.
Yeah.
It's a myth.
I
It's
saw
a myth.
that under the Kentucky concealment law where it said that it used to be that you could not buy a gun if it was 3 years of alcohol or drug related. It used to be that if you owed child support even a year that you couldn't. But under the new law, they got rid of that.
When Kentucky merged with county here, the only law that they have about this gun is the 527.110. And that says intentionally, accidentally, or recklessly providing a handgun. That's the only law. And that was created in 1996. We're in 2019, sister. Times are not like that. And it's like before when you talk to me, well, my mom and daddy knew I wouldn't touch that gun. They told me not to touch that gun. Well, in today's time, you have to take these children and show them why it's important not to touch these guns. You've got to educate those children on why. And remember, not only in your home, but in homes that they go to, of not to touch. Back away from that gun and go call an adult. You have to give them reasons why to do that today.
But you know what? Unfortunately, and I understand the conversation, but I know that I touched that gun.
Yeah,
The gun was right there. I mean, it was right there beside my parents' bed. And I touched that gun. So you could have, I believe you could have the conversation, but when you tell a child, don't touch, it becomes even more. If you sit down and you say, you know how you can show pictures. Because let me tell you where I'm going. Where I'm going is that gun safety. I'm saying the conversation is wonderful, but if I'm going to have the conversation, with somebody that has a loaded gun, okay, in their house, that we may as a community, as individuals, may need to get some locks and say, don't touch, and my kids can't come here, and if for your safety, for my child's safety, for the safety of our kids and our family, here's a lock.
Well, when you say that, I want to show you the difference from when Mama and Daddy told us not to touch. They only had to tell us once. Today we have to tell our children consistently over and over and over and over, stop, don't touch, back away from God. It has to be a continuous reminder today. See, in these days times, we don't live the way, there's not enough, I would say, I don't want to give any less of what our parents did, but today's generation is a little different. If my grandmother's practicing safe gun storage, and I know she's going to enforce it, if my auntie and uncles are enforcing gun safety, I know they're going to enforce it. This child will grow up with a family that enforces an issue. You see, it just can't be in your house alone. And if my neighbors know that I practice safe gun storage, I want them to practice safe gun storage too. So that if my child comes there, I know that it's being practiced there. So it has to be a steady around. I'm going to tell you what, I had a baby that was in my program, and we were in Kroger's. And I love my babies, you know. And I tell them, if you see a gun, what do? The baby hollered out, you stop, you don't touch, and just as loud as, because that's the way I want them to do it. And the baby wasn't showing off, but the baby remembered what I told him in my program. So the more that they say it, the more they see it said, the more that the little generation practice it, the better off they'll be when they get up here. And that's what our program, Little Hands, Little Feet, Gun Safety Program does.
I know you have some educational material.
Yes, I do.
That you give out, and
yes,
if you can go through some of that material, and because we're streaming
live,
we're going to be streaming, in a different city, WIGNTV in Detroit, and nationally. I want you to show that information.
Well, legally and federally, this is across the board, that if you own a firearm and it's ever stolen or taken from your home, you are by law, the country, to report it stolen. You have to report that gun stolen because it is your property. If I own a car in Louisville, I can't drive that car to Chicago and try to sell it. See, I've got to go through some paperwork in order for me to sell that car. I don't care who bought that car in Chicago from me. Ain't nothing they can do with that car until I transfer it. And it's the same thing with these guns. That if this gun is stolen, and I've done the right proper registration, reported it stolen, 25 years from now, if this gun is in Florida, they cannot do anything with it until they bring it to my doorstep. And that's the law. Until we start abiding by the law, holding people accountable for these firearms that are stolen from them. That's why you have to be very careful when you buy guns off the street. See, because that gun could be caught up in something else that is unbelievable that you have no knowledge about. That's why it's very dangerous to buy guns from people off the street. Even sometimes your own family member, because they may not know where the gun come from. So you got to be careful in reporting guns that are stolen. Now, I have another form here that I didn't mean to drop it down. It's called a firearm responsibility in your home. This pamphlet here gives you a variety of things. To talk about our seniors, talk about uncle, granddaddy. Granddaddy's got about 12 guns back there. This pamphlet talks to you about, well, how do you talk to granddaddy about his guns? How do you talk to him, because he's getting up in age. He doesn't know every bullet. He doesn't probably remember when he bought the guns. We've got to start thinking about those particular things in our families. It also talks about mental. If you got an alcoholic in the family, it talks about stress. It talks about what you can do to start this conversation of looking at gun safety. See, gun safety on these weapons is a conversation we're not having. The guns are here. They're here already. And they're not going anywhere. A background check ain't going to make a difference to all of the guns that are already here. They're already here. So let's look at, what do we do with families? How do we talk to families? How do we change communities' mindset about the gun? Taking away guns is not going to get it, because you're not going to be able to do that. But you can educate people about how to store them, how to talk to your family members. You see, it even has a contract in one of our brochures today, has a contract on how you talk to your kids. How to have that. And then they'll have to sign it. Kids have to sign it, that they understand what you're talking. But this just stop here. Tomorrow you talk to them about those questions. Have your father, your mother, your brother quiz them on these things. It's educational. The more you say ABCs to a baby, the sooner or later the baby will get to D, E, and F. The more, and the baby will go right through A, B, and C. But the more you have to keep continuously saying that. It's a learning process. And you have to start it here. And I guarantee you, within 10 years, you start a generation like this, within 10 years, that generation will know what to do. And if we don't do it today, with the generation today, with the knowledge that we have about the problems that this gun is causing today, if we don't fix it then, those babies are going to say, what did you all do when you all had a chance to fix this problem? Now my children have a problem with this gun that you all didn't fix when I was coming up. See, that's where we have to change and do something different. And it's gun safety is what's going to make a difference.
We are at the end of the conversation. Look, I thank you so much for coming and being on not only A Matter of Interpretation on the radio, but also being a part of our documentary. I want you to just say the most important thing. I'll give you 90 seconds to sum up what you're saying and just talk to the audience about gun safety. It's got to change. You know, I thought about something. How many domestic violence situations can we avoid if the person who is living with the alcoholic, or the person that's living with a person that is abusing them, spends how much money? $12 and something to lock up that gun.
Well, mines are free. Mine are free.
To give it time, the situation time to diffuse.
Right.
Because sometimes you need time to diffuse.
Well,
and if there's not a loaded gun there,
well,
that does give you time to
well,
diffuse.
you know,
talk to my audience.
To be quite honest with you, I think the last words that I would want to say, if we as a community and a nation do not start thinking of gun safety in all aspects, children's, families, we're going to lose this battle with this gun. And gun safety have to be our today's new background check. Gun safety instead of background checks.
Thank you. This is Claudette Milner, host of A Matter of Interpretation, Americans in Crisis. It has been our efforts, plus God's grace. Stay tuned for more shows. Have a blessed week.
Thank you, my sister.